Hello guys and welcome to TFT Worlds, Day 2, game number 5. Enjoy.
It was all about Zephyrs and Shroud. People were picking up that, maybe a Tactician's Crown. Now, how has Yorick's Graveyard transformed as you've seen in 9.5?
So the big thing, especially with a meta like this though, is if we get like a gold augment start, you can actually end up with extra emblems. You can also end up with Tactician's Crowns. And so to your point, the final 4 could end up extremely explosive, especially if you end up, knocking out somebody who's playing your same line and are able to grab one of their emblems. That can be really powerful.
Well, something we are seeing, of course, we expect to see a lot of Earth coming in, but we're seeing a double Ornn setup here. So perhaps we'll see slightly less emblems, and also Honglian sticking with the Twisted Fate as well. So we've got something a little bit different than what we've been seeing before.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to those players in particular. Twisted Fate is a strategy that's fallen out of favor, and it's almost like we've come full circle, where is China ahead again by cycling back to Twisted Fate while everyone else is playing Herb. I don't think that's 100% the case, because the other CN players who are also in top 8 are playing Ornn as well. That being said, Huey is on Ornn. And so for people who don't know, Huey yesterday was playing Ornn, also had good scores. He pivoted to Poro and went 7-7-8. That's why Poro's scores were so bad, because he actually pivoted into it and contributed to the 9 games. Now he's back on Ornn today, and he's averaging better than a 2.0.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to see how well he's been able to play it. So we get another silver here.
Oh, we've been good this year.
Yeah, a lot of silvers here. So again, with the silvers, it's what are we getting from our branching out? Are the Ornn players going to take Latent Forge? Latent Forge ends up being pretty powerful in the mid game, but it means you have to play stage 2 basically down that silver augment. There's some other wild options here, like Caretaker's Ally, which could be taken. We see some AFK, but overall starting to get a look at the emblems. And I do see a Demacia emblem for Wet Jungler.
Demacia for Wet Jungler, that's really big potential, especially if he gets a second one somehow. Kurum has the ability to go for Pandora's Bench. If you're talking about playing for Big Cap, he is going to go for it. However, Kurum has been very vocal about how he thinks he's the worst Pandora's Bench player on the North America server.
Well, Morph, from where you're sitting, what separates the good or the merely understated Pandora's Bench players from the very best?
I think Pandora's Bench, again, you have to know what your outs are and what you're playing towards here. And taking it on 2-1 means you're kind of saying, hey, I really want to hit some of these 1-cost, possibly 3-star champions. And for someone like Kurum who really needs a win out here, this is a really risky take at 2-1, because you're probably trying to go for a first place, which, again, it can get those 3-star 4 costs, but that means you're down this augment basically until stage 2. And so really hoping to hit these pairs, but you only have a 1 in 13 chance for each champion to roll what you're looking for, and that can be not enough here. So again, I do think this is the right play to try to get that first place that Kurum needs, but it's very risky.
It's very risky, but hey, everything's looking okay so far. And this is a spot where maybe Kurum can go back to some of his roots of playing high-tempo compositions like Challengers, maybe roll for uncontested 4 cost, because a lot of people aren't necessarily looking for Kai'Sa. Fiora's only dragged into a lot of those Demacia boards.
Yeah, Kurum keeping a lot on the bench for the time being as we are looking at the reroll. Do want to take a note. We know we had the potential to see a lot of branching out in the lobby. We've ultimately ended up with actually relatively little of it. We've only got 2 emblems live at the moment. Wet Jungler's Demacia emblem you pointed out before, Mort, and for Michael, bringing the Shurima emblem to the field.
Yeah, definitely some emblem choices there, so we'll keep an eye on those. I do like Kurum here selling to 10 here. He is going to lose that bench value, but the fact that he has the 2-star Samira, the 2-star Aurelia, that should be enough to keep his health relatively high here. Needs to kill that Warwick, that's good. But get that econ up, and again, Kurum playing to that win condition of a 3-star 4 cost is going to be the play. He needs to do that, so it's really just keep that health up and that gold high.
Yeah, I think it's really smart. I think most people feel like with Pandora's Bench, you feel like obligated to collect value like every turn. But in reality, if you already have the direction that you want, and you want to start making that economy as fast as you can, so I like what you pointed out. On the other hand, we still don't know what Honglian's going to play, but I just want to give a shout out to Honglian. He's not just a 2-time back-to-back Worlds appearance, actually 3rd time, but twice in a row since going to Monsters Attack Championship. He's also the most popular streamer in China, which is, as you know, a really heavy burden to carry. You're like the lead influencer, but also he's competing at a high level, and now he's on the verge of making a top 8 appearance for day number 3.
Yeah, we knew certainly from the NA side of things, having so many eyes on you can be very off-putting. Every one of your moves being judged by so many people. That's very much going to be the case. You can see the board is working relatively well so far. The Pandora's license, of course, is a longer-term investment.
Yeah. Does end up losing his streak. Very understandable. It is what looks like to be 5 Demacia on 2-3. Wet Jungler leveling early and having really powerful things like that Radiant Warmogs and Deathblade.
Yeah, the Radiant Warmogs on Cho'Gath especially ends up very powerful here, and so I would expect no one to be able to really take him down that early. Again, it's almost kind of like getting that 4 Bruiser for free. Just we talk about, again, you don't have the damage to really take it down unless you've slammed a lot of items, and we haven't seen that many slams here. We do kind of get a glimpse of all the different boards being played right now. Huey looking to play possibly that Jinx line we've seen do so pretty well, but otherwise, I do like also that AFK was taken.
Yes.
Yeah.
AFK, one of my favorite augments. We don't see it a lot in this level of play, but that will put that economy very high.
Yeah, that's people say I want to see Tahm Kench. That's almost like taking Tahm Kench because AFK is that augment. Let's see
that's
if
lots of money.
Nem is going to be able to convert off. He's going to lose. He's going to try to at least aim to lose, but he did pick up that spatula, which I'm curious what he wants to do with.
As we noted, we haven't got a lobby which is massively contested in terms of these spatula lines. We've got the streamer, we've got Demacia already, but nothing else doing. So there's some potential for Nem to pull off something a little unusual.
Yeah, the other thing worth calling out here is even if you're eliminated, you don't have enough points even with like double first, the prize pool still changes at every placement you get. So players right now are still playing for, trying to get these big finishes, move up and earn a couple, extra $1,000.
Yeah, plus you never know. What if something crazy happens and you're like the 9th person in and you get in on waitlist? There are some crazy things that have happened in tournaments before. So you want to put your best foot forward. Don't just give up.
No, absolutely. And even some of our players playing here today got lucky with those kind of circumstances. It must be very tough, though, to keep up your kind of focus, under these kind of circumstances, knowing that you've only got, a 1 in a million kind of shot to do anything better than, as you said, more just finish higher and then still get a meaningful amount more money.
Yeah, for sure. Getting a look at Wet Jungler's board here, we got that 5 Demacia like we talked about. Switches over to the Taric here, which is going to have that redemption, not too bad. I kind of prefer the Cho'Gath for the Warmogs, at least for stage 2, but hopefully got some econ here. So now win streaking here, it's all about can you get that second emblem. 100 health with this much gold should put you in a good spot to maybe go 9 and try to hit that 9 Demacia. And Wet Jungler, again, one of those players that is able to still make it here with some really strong finishes. So this is definitely the kind of start you're looking for if you're an EMEA fan.
His spot is really good, at least to start things off. Needs to obviously continue to convert, but we've seen the lower power, not a lot of emblems situation. 7 Demacia more 2 is still really strong to get you to 9 and play around a high cap situation.
Yeah, we've seen a few times today, actually, that some of the Demacia players that have these really great starts, though, struggle to convert it because they end up spending too much gold at level 7. They don't have quite enough health. And so that's why, at least with you're in this 100 health spot, things are looking good. But if we don't hit like this Quinn pair, because our gold situation is actually not that insane here. It's fine, it's not bad. But we need to hit that Quinn pair early. We need to get one of these 2-star frontliners possibly. And that should hopefully allow, the ability to go to those deeper levels.
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly got a lot of gold on the board right now. But the board is solid enough. We say you've got the Quinn with Deathblade, of course, and the Last Wisp, of course, we saw in the previous game. Doing some decent work. The front line is pretty solid. Along with Wet Jungler, Michael is also going to be win streaking up at the top, looking very good indeed. And of course, we've got our lost streakers at the other end.
Yeah, you look at these gold totals, by the way, it's almost like in reverse order, right? The top had like the 20s, Mikhail just got a bunch of dropped, but otherwise it was looking like that. Meanwhile, at the bottom, you're seeing the 50s. And so now I think what we'll see is, again, like that 3-5, level 7, rolled down, and I think that's going to be the big thing to watch.
Yeah, a lot of people are surprisingly very rich. Even Kurum and Hong Lian were kind of like middle of the pack, able to hit that 50 threshold, which is going to be really nice. You can see why, because Kurum decided to slow play it. He's rolling some 1-cost 2-stars as well. And I think this double Samir is good for tempo. And I think right now, Kurum's just going to play, again, that very smooth, try to get to Challenger safely. And with this Jewel Gauntlet Slam, I think that's almost certainly the case.
Yeah, the Jeweled Gauntlet Slam in particular really kind of paints a picture of like playing around Kai'Sa, trying to go that uncontested, 4-cost like we talked about. So
this is something a little bit unusual. So we're a little late to the party, but still, this Piltover will be worth 1 gold every round if you can get the wins in. Potentially even more if you can get some losses in longer term. Foeman bring out the multicast as a little bit of a throwback, at least for this stage in the game, and doing a decent job, but not stopping that 1 free gold.
Yeah, and he has a Misfortune 2, which is actually really good at this point of the game. did slam a tier on Misfortune. I know some people would prefer to even go for Morel Nomicon, which I know Mort is actually not that big a fan of.
Yeah, no, I'm shaking my head because I actually really like this setup. He has the blue buff plus the tier, which gives that instant cast. And the fact that it's MF2 this early, that is going to be so much damage. You know, you can convert that to a Shojin later if you want, or it could just be an Archangel, but there's just so much power there as we head into the gold augments.
Did notice Hongliang picking up the Rising Infamy there, so things are starting to heat up on the Chinese side of things. We'll look for our other augments slotting in.
Okay, so other players to focus on. Michael with 50 points. He's a player to pay attention to. He picked up You Have My Bow. So pretty open-ended as long as he's able to get that Azir in. Who's going to be a secondary carry? We're going to find out. Maybe that Mordekaiser. Wet Jungler picks up Martyr, which is excellent for the Demacia. And then Kerm goes for You Have My Sword, which is not ideal, but challengers could use a lot of swords. They could use like 4 to 5 swords pretty easily in the comp.
Just to go back to the Martyr coming in, because I know yesterday we saw the healing orbs come in, so a lot of Martyr coming in. How do you like this, as a second pickup on the augments?
I think it can do very well. It's a nice safe pick that allows you to just kind of keep your unit healthy. It's a very tempo pick, and it scales into the late game really well because it's percentage based if you get any really strong units here. So definitely agree that can be a good choice. The You Have My Sword, this is interesting, and because clearly, like we said, he's itemizing around a Kai'Sa. So I think a lot of players would look at that and go, well, Kai'Sa's AP, I don't need You Have My Sword. But to your point, Froden, the fact that he's got the challengers in, if he can get that 4 challenger, that's just going to be enough base damage to provide that tempo to keep him healthy. Right now, he's at 84 health. He knows he needs these first. It really is just stay healthy, keep the gold high, and get that 3-star forecast.
Yeah, in a very abstract way, every round he wins almost equates to kind of the free rerolls that he can get. The more HP he preserves, the more chances he gets at Pandora's. And so in some very tangentially related ways, it's almost like he's playing for economy as well.
No, absolutely. I mean, that value is very much there.
Oh my god!
It would Nem, who's somehow find a Sun that somehow hasn't slammed too many items. That is going to change after this round. The Kai'Sa is in play.
Yeah.
Nem has been building up quietly. The AFK suddenly fully at keyboard.
And this is pretty bad for Wet Jungler because now that means that there's 3 players that are looking towards Mordekaiser right now, which, as we know, could make it very difficult for all the hit, but particularly for the player that needs it the most, because Nem mathematically eliminated currently, but can still very much disrupt the rest of people's games.
Yeah, like you said, definitely looking for that Mordekaiser. Has that early Scion. Scion in particular, again, just a large ball of health, and then the fact that you have to take him down twice this early, again, when DPS isn't really getting stacked up. But we are starting to get to that point now where, again, the 3-5 roll down, I'm expecting a lot of boards to scale up right now and end up really powerful, and so these health advantages may not work for much longer.
Yeah, heading into this roll down, it's worth noting, saying Wet Jungler might struggle to find the Mordekaiser, has actually managed to snag one already, which is going to be big for this roll down.
Nice. Finds the Quinn 2 here, which is big. Finds the Mordekaiser, like you said. The fact that he's level 6, has the Mordekaiser, doesn't really have amazing items for it, but can move that Demacia emblem at least to get that Radiant Nashers, looking for something like an Edge of Night or Quicksilver. Getting a look at Kermix's board, we start to see, find a few 4 costs, get those rolling with that Pandora's Bench.
Wow.
Sejuani 2 here, that's going to be big. Finds another Sejuani, probably isn't going to be holding that. Right now, though, there's not much damage on this board.
That roll. I'm kind of wondering what he was trying to go for it. And as a result, there's like a lot of disconnected synergies. But Toma's just trying to stop the bleeding.
Yeah, it seems like with the items here, we're looking for a Neela, possibly going into like, the Bruiser Neela line. You've got that RFC, maybe something like a Giant Slayer. Again, very strong front line here, which is not a problem. But this poor Jin 1 trying to have to do all the work.
He's doing his best.
It's actually a Sejuani carry for the most part. I feel like her passive chill damage for Fury of the North has been actually a bigger activator than anything else.
Well, I love how strong this front line is in combination with that needlessly large gem as well. For just giving a guaranteed damage boost across the team. As it gets stronger, and as we see, we've got some potential for Icy Toma to have a very strong board later on. Having that almost guaranteed proc is fantastic.
Oh, multicasters and a sorcerer multicaster variant. What do you think about this one?
So the one thing I like here is you have the Ornn item here that provides so much extra mana. This is going to allow that Sona to cast 2, 3, possibly even 4 times very quickly, which is a lot of attack speed. But you're going to need items on this Vel'Koz really fast. Vel'Koz needs those scalers, things like Jeweled Gauntlet, Guard Breaker, stuff like that. The Morello's going to have to do a lot of work here, and it's just right now with everything being 1-star, it seems a little rough. And the fact we're already down to 53 health, I don't know. I'd be rolling pretty quickly here.
Yeah, usually a lot of times when you play multicaster, you slow roll above 50 gold. Okay, that helps, so you can hit things like that. But he lost most of stage 3, and multicaster is supposed to be online a little bit earlier, so you can capitalize on having an HP lead. This feels very risky for Foeman that he wants to go for a level 7 instead.
Yeah, I think he's hoping he's going to be able to find something to itemize that Vel'Koz and get a bit more punch behind this, because as you said, there's a lot of attack speed coming in, but not a lot of damage to back up. Do want to take a note of the economy on the right-hand side, though, because you can see that several of our players are very low on cash.
I also want to see Hong Lian's roll down. He's been gearing up for a lot. Actually, he already rolled down to 1 gold, so he actually doesn't have anything to roll for. So it's really about Foeman and whether or not he can actually execute and hit what he needs on 7.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the fact we saw a lot of the 3-5 roll down, everyone had burned through most of their economy. Unfortunately, we really want the Sona 2 at the very least here. Continuing to roll, really wants to find that Sona. Finds the Shen, which will at least be valuable here. Is going to move the items here. This is interesting. Sells the Sona to move it again, just so he can move the Sorcerer emblem onto Shen. So we're going to see vertical Sorcerer here.
Got it. So he played multicasters into stage 3 to bridge the gap to get him to stage 4 to convert to a 6 Stork board. It's pretty roundabout in terms of like what the way he sold his unit to get there, but I see the vision. Now, whether or not that execution actually pays off, going up against Sejuani 2 for Michael. Michael looks very strong for this stage right now.
Yeah, I suppose it does make up for what you're talking about before, not having the AP itemization. You can at least find it by a different route. But the win does come in, so for Foeman, lots more wins will need to be coming his way. He, again, like a lot of our players, have spent a lot to get to this point.
Yeah, jungler, by the way, still streaking as we go to the 4-2 augment, and that's a Demacian emblem for a wet jungler. EMEA needed some of that weight, things to fall their way, and it looks like that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, the fact that he gets that's going to be really big here. The fact it's already 100 health, that should be a pretty solid finish here. Could really just stay high econ, get his econ back up, go to 9. Should be relatively solid here. So now it's really looking at everybody else, seeing what kind of picks we're getting here. Nothing too crazy across the board what we're looking at right now. We see that Shroud getting taken. We've got some of the support dummies there helping out.
Wow.
But yeah, you just look at this board right now, and I think, honestly, this is just coast. This is coast. This should be a good spot. And for wet jungler, who, again, if we're going towards 60 points, kind of needs 2 first, this is a good step in that direction.
100%. And it could, what are the fortunes can reverse, right? All of a sudden, EMEA could have 2 players join us in the top 8 while a lot of people weren't expecting it.
Don't tease me with hope.
Listen, man, at one point during day 1, we were worried it was going to be 0, but they could get multiple players while every other region may be struggling to get 1 player in.
Well, we'll have to see. Certainly wet jungler as it finally comes to an end. I mean, that's 2 full stages of winning. And especially, wet jungler is, of course, looking to eventually go up to Demacian 9. He's got everything he needs to get that first place. It's just about how the rest of the lobby comes together.
Oh, no. Hong Lian looks like he's in a terrible spot. And if Hong Lian goes 8th, all of a sudden, the pressure is on. He's at 57 points to not go bot 3, or actually not go 7th or worse. I thought he was kind of a shoo-in with 2 games left, but this is one of those situations where it could end up reversing on him.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Goes with the 4 strategists here, 3 Bilgewater, finds the Neela 2 and everything, but again, MF2 just doesn't really cut it at this point in the game. Trying to use that Rising Infamy, get a few extra cannonballs, get a few extra econ going, but all the way down, on a 6 loss streak here, is able to finally convert a win here, thankfully. The Neela providing a lot of extra damage, is going to be able to kill this with the next cast. There we go. A little closer than you'd like it, though.
Yeah, a little closer than you'd like, and he does end up having a pretty decent scenario, having things like the Chalice, which is actually really big to get not just the ability power buff, but also the extra mana, so he can cast a little bit quicker. But I still think he needs extra, and there's no Gangplank on the carousel to help him.
No, that would have been a big saving grace. I'm going to take a note again about I'll see it a little bit later on, but our players did roll aggressively. Wet Jungler is the only player left with a significant amount of cash in the lobby.
I misspoke. I thought Holian for some reason, had multiple Bilgewater. He actually is playing the strategist variation that we talked about. So he actually hit the Aatrox, which is what he wanted.
Oh, there we go. Easy peasy.
Never mind.
He was playing the confusion strategy. It was very effective.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I was trying to look at who all had some of their 2-star 4 costs here. We switch over.
Oh! How do you do that?
I was just about to say, who hasn't quite hit it yet, but does manage to find it there. So now we're going to be using this Pandora's Bench, trying to find the Fiora. I'm surprised he's keeping the Fioras, or not keeping the Fioras here. This feels like an angle he should be considering at least. I know it's heavily contested, but the fact that he can also weaken some of the other players in the lobby by holding these, I'd really rather see other things get rerolled. But for now, maybe he's just trying to play strong board, which, again, makes sense if he's playing for placements, but not to make it to day 3.
He also chose to take Mana Burn instead of actually going for Cybernetic Leech. Leech is usually a really powerful augment to help keep specifically the Fiora and the Kai'Sa alive, and people talk about the need for that combat augment, but Fiora's Blatant Waltz able to go to the back and assassinate immediately, and those are the kind of fights that Kermex needs to bring himself back in this game.
Yeah, we were praising Fiora in Death's Past for just how explosive she can be into that one. Absolutely shut up for Kerm there. We have got Icy Toma, though, on the win streak. The only player to have a major one doing so is Honglian takes the win there.
Wet Jungler is going straight to 9 if he can. He's just trying to tank as many fights as he can. Kerm hits Jarvan 2 and a Nasus 2!
What?
Big time hits for Team Liquid's Kermex!
That's a big hit. Yeah, the one thing that has me a little concerned is if you look at Wet Jungler, he went from 100 health to 67 fairly quickly. And we've seen this before where sometimes you get a little confident and then all of a sudden you lose a bit too much health and you're not able to make it to 9. And that would be pretty disappointing from this position here. It's going to need a lot of gold to do it.
And he also doesn't have that Fiora. He's hoping that he's going to be able to natural it. And kind of goes back to what you were saying about his core point. If Kermex picked a whiff of that, maybe not now, but in the future, think about holding Fiora again.
Yeah, the Morkais are certainly not itemized on the app. They won't even get the Radiant item so far. Wet Jungler trying to soften these losses as much as possible, but might be a little too strong.
Wait, this is also Yurik's Graveyard. You're totally right. That actually goes back to things how Cybernetics get a lot of value in this portal in particular. That is something interesting, food for thought, as Huey takes another big loss. Huey going 8th is going to completely sabotage the momentum. Remember, he's already in the top 8. That's how you fall out of it.
Yeah, this is pretty wild for our point standings. We're going to see some pretty big shifts if Huey ends up going 8th. The other thing is this is Yorick's Graveyard, so as soon as people start dying, people are going to start spiking.
Yes.
Power is going to get a lot higher here. And if you don't have an extra champion to put those items on, you're going to be in a rough spot here. And you can see Wet Jungler right now really praying for just any gold he can get. Almost doesn't want items here. Just wants as many gold drops. All right, there's 3 gold here. That's going to... Gets a Galio and some more gold.
That's functionally
I
gold.
swear I'm not pressing any buttons here, but that is exactly what Wet Jungler wanted.
I mean, he can get to 9 very comfortably now.
Yeah, that's basically going to be wait 2 turns, go to 9. All he needs now is the Fiora, has great items on that Mordekaiser. Honglian gets the MF3 here. That's going to be a nice upgrade as well. This is the version of the MF3 we have seen be relatively successful. If you can get to the MF3, the Nautilus 3 would also help. But overall, pretty solid board here.
We've got the
Wondering about making Even Shroud here by any chance, or just going for straight up Warmogs? Warmogs.
I was to say, we've still got the Rising Infamy kicking there for Honglian long term as a way to push him further into the game. But check in with Huey again. This would be such a massive disappointment for O's fans if Huey is the guy on 8 here. He's so very close to realizing one of O's dreams to get back into that top 8 to take center stage.
Huey!
But it's not all over entirely, but for this game, Huey is out in 8th. They were 7th and 8th. That will no longer be the case.
It's a flashback to yesterday where Huey started off so well in the first half of the day, and now takes an 8th place. We're going to have to see how he fares in the final game as we take a look at Honglian. And Honglian, by the way, happy to not go 8th. Every point he can muster will get him over that threshold.
Extra items coming in from the Yorick's Graveyard, so we'll see which of our players benefit the most directly.
Yeah, unfortunately, the item choices here were not that great. Takes the Bloodthirster, probably just going to slap that on Swain, try to keep Swain alive a little longer. Isn't going to be able to hit the Swain 2 or Swain 3 here, so a little rough. 4 Sorcerer also, so just not enough power that you'd really want on this board at the moment.
And it's pretty surprising because if you want to go for the Swain 3, 6 Sorcerer is pretty good, and this is a good time for Wet Jungler to play against them. Wet Jungler's greeting, recognizing that he needs to go to 9 and have the gold to hit Fiora, because if you go to 9 and have 0 gold, you're stuck praying that you're able to hit it with very little income.
Yeah, at least the Demacia board's doing good enough to be able to take out most of the board here.
Yep,
Quinn
preserving HP.
punching above and might even actually get the job done. As Michael goes out, Foeman taking no, not taking a loss, just turning around at the last second, but we're starting to see more of our players getting into elimination position.
Vow for Jarvan is potentially really huge. Do we have any magic reduction? We do. We have a Spark. So that's going to be good. Remember, everyone is going to be looking at those similar options.
Yeah, the Shurima emblem, like I said, talking about an emblem being dropped here. But this board right now, this is just play for every little point you can get here. Honestly, if this turns into a 4th, you are so happy from this position, but just not really that strong a board right now.
Honglian will be next up. Nem is also on the chopping block. They could potentially go up against each other, but they will dodge for the time being. Keep an eye out on that Misfortune on the right-hand side. She's going to have these absolutely massive casts. Gets held in place for the Jarvan for a few seconds more, but the front line is very good. Dan, I think you're keeping an eye on the left-hand side. What's going down there as Honglian survives?
Yeah, Kurum's also trying to see if he can get this win here, but the Kaisa is getting overwhelmed. That's the... Oh my goodness gracious! The rain comes down and eliminates Nem. Nem actually was one of the only people to benefit off that Shurima emblem, by the way. Ends up dying. And let's see what ends up happening on this carousel here. If there's anything that can help Spike.
Yeah, now we're to the point where everyone's getting a full item off the carousel. They're getting a full item from Yorick's graveyard. Boards are getting strong. And so you look around, who's got all these carries, right? Kurimex has the Kaisa. He's got the Fiora, can start itemizing this Nasus. That can be a lot of power. And so looking at this position, who's got the empty item slots, right? Honglian has that Neela that could get another item slot here. We're seeing more Shurima emblems because of that. Overall, but yeah, so you're seeing better frontline here. Again, this board, though, really struggling because it just doesn't have that much damage right now. And I think this might be a 5th place here.
Yeah, and also a couple of interesting item choices, like, for example, going for a Vow on the Taric. I understand that you want to try to cast to support that Shen as fast as possible, but there's also another unit really important for casting, which is Jarvan. Oh, 2 Kaisas away. Is anyone holding Kaisas?
2 Kaisas and 2 Fioras. Had 7 Fioras as well, so we started moving towards that.
All right.
Oh, baby! We might see 9 Demacia go up against Kaisa Fiora 3, but we have to cross that bridge when we get there. Meanwhile, Honglian trying to play for the extra placement, but he should be through, so we can welcome a 2nd player guaranteed to join us in day number 3, and it is Honglian with back-to-back championship appearances.
Yeah, Family just got completely annihilated on the other screen there. Down to our final 3. Note that Wet Jungler is still in play and still has nearly 60 gold to spend.
Wait, Kerm sold a Kaisa. I see. Yeah. He's trying to see if he can just roll the 2-star 4 cost into it.
Yeah, this one's really tricky because especially if you're contested, remember there are only 12 copies of the champions in the pool. So if you're holding, 7 or 8 of them, the odds that one of your 2-stars are going to roll into that is really low. So instead, you sell that and let the 2-stars try to roll here.
Wet Jungler found that Fiora, by the way. Still greeting. He's going to try to go down to 1 life, which is a little on the dicey side because that means that all he has to do is lose 1 time. That's assuming he loses here. Kerm doesn't have that strong of a board to go up against this Demacia board at the moment, so I think Wet Jungler's going to take the win, which is huge for him. Having 2 lives is massive.
Yeah, we can see the Mordekaiser stood amidst the chaos there with the Edge of Night still able to stay up and fighting for a really long time.
And I feel like if I'm Kerm here, are you tempted to roll to see if you can get multiple chances at 2-star 4 cost if you're able to, say, for example, 2-star like this Azir and put it in the bench?
Absolutely. I think that is the only thing you can do right now because, again, we talk about the points. If you're really trying to make it to day 3, you need a 1st place here. The only thing that matters is hitting these 3-star 4 costs. I think leveling is irrelevant. So if anything, yeah, I would keep rolling a little bit here. Does find a Kaisa, but again, we've talked about how you shouldn't really be holding that Kaisa.
Lock? What if these turn into Kaisas?
Doesn't hit.
Fiora.
The good news is we have 1 more life. 1 more life won't kill us here. Okay. Finds the Azir too. That's 1 extra chance here. But I'll be honest, this is a position a lot of players find themselves in with Pandora's Bench. And this is often where we hit that floor, where it just doesn't roll. You're going to see things like the Shen, the Aphelios over and over, those units that aren't in play. Wet Jungler now exactly where he wants to be, and it feels like Kerm has basically 1 shot to hit this.
Yep. And did he buy himself enough time? Wet Jungler, in the meantime, is going against Toma, which is nice for Kerm. He's going against the Ghost. Can Toma fight for pride here as one of the lower point scorers, trying to see if he can upset Wet Jungler and at least disrupt his momentum?
And Wet Jungler has all the items he needs from the Yorick's graveyard. Keep your eye on Anila up in the top right-hand corner. She's pumping out the DPS. The front line is starting to be torn to pieces. The Mordekaiser are still on full health, scaling into infinity, ripping everybody apart. Wet Jungler is exactly where he needs to be.
And Kurum taking the loss to the Ghost. It's really do or die for Kurum X. And the verdict is... no 3-star forecast, and it's a Kaisa. All these different small rolls for these individual forecasts. Did it cost Kurum X, or was it exactly what he needed and he just missed?
Unfortunately, I think right now he is the weaker board, and so unfortunately this might just be a miss. I know if Bebe were here right now, he'd be screaming, "Sell it and roll, sell it and roll." But I think
Neela 3.
Okay, now he's definitely.
All right.
Now he has to roll. But he's out of time.
He's out of time. This is it, unfortunately. So we're going to see this Neela go up against this 9 Demacia, and it'll be interesting, but 9 Demacia definitely seems favored.
Yeah.
Icy Thomas be able to play something of a spoiler here. Remember, on the 28 points, the Kurum X is 44. Not what you want to be running into. Of course, you've got a whole load of Oblivion coming away thanks to the Neela 3.
Yep, and that's going to do it for this edition of Kurum's World Championship run. As far as I know, he is now also mathematically eliminated, which means there's only one North American player left.
I don't know if that's true yet, just because we saw so many of our 50 players kind of go 8th and 7th. So we'll have to see. It's going to be really close. I don't know if we're quite there yet, but definitely, again, if you're aiming for that 60, which feels like the sort of safe spot, you want to do better than that. And so that is going to put him in a very rough situation where even next game, to even have a shot, it has to be a first.
Yeah, at least it means your fate is out of your hands at that point. You're just watching the results absolutely favorably. Wet Jungler, though, has played a hell of a game. Maybe didn't fully anticipate running into the Neela 3, but has still managed to keep the streak going.
And that's a big deal because Wet Jungler needs every point he can squeeze out if he's going to make it to day 3. He's going against Neela 3. Is this going to be strong enough to take down 9 Demacia, which is considered by many to be the Exodia of the comp?
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on whether or not the Mordekaiser manages to survive, but gets ripped up and thrown away. We have got the secondary carry, though, the Belveth dancing around the field. She hasn't got the DPS to punch through. Neela goes very low, but not low enough.
And that means that Wet Jungler can take another loss and still survive, which is really scary. That means that potentially can cap higher. There's a Slayer emblem on Carousel, by the way.
And he grabs him.
Oh, wait, does Toma not have anti-heal all the way up until this point of the game?
I mean, it's definitely looking like the case. We'll have to get a look.
No, he's got Morello's.
So he's going for another Nautilus. Is that what's going on here? Or perhaps multiple sources of burn.
Yeah, I think just multiple sources of burn here. A lot of this comes down to the fact that right now we don't really have any armor shred either, and so 9 Demacia has those really high base armor and MR, so this Neela has to do a lot of work, but thankfully the front line is so strong that you just have a lot of time for this Neela to ramp up.
Not only do we have a Morello on Gangplank from the Thieves Coast, we have a Morello on the Ashe, and we have a Sunfire, so we got anti-heal on lockdown. And to your point, we also have Failure, so we do have to wait, but maybe that needlessly big gem can scale. I'm actually a little curious, did he frontline this turn a little bit too quickly?
All right, this is a penultimate game of groups. Both of these, well, Wet Jungler in particular, looking to try and get out by the skin of his teeth. All the Morellos in all the world will cut down the healing, but the Belveth is still punching through.
The gem!
We've got the reset coming in. Belveth drops, and Neela is still left up on full health. Quinn can't do anything. Wet Jungler takes the hit.
And Wet Jungler, if he takes 7 points here, means that he has to go first to get to that 60. And that's just so much more pressure, knowing that you have to actually win out or you're not going to be able to advance to day number 3.
Yeah, you've got to try something here. You've got to try some positioning to try to get onto that Neela. It's just really rough here. The other thing is that we're fighting up against, these two dummies. There's just so much health that gem kicks in, and the Neela ends up so strong with this amazing itemization. So heading into the final fight, 2 in a row, will it be 3?
Keep our eyes closely on that Belveth, because you said, absolutely massive. The Mordekaiser now removed from the field in exchange for those legendaries. Still going to be keeping our eyes very closely on Anila because she keeps herself so incredibly safe. The Dreadwave drops into the middle of the borders. Of course, the Jarvan's going to be trying to cast as many times as possible, but the Slayer frontline is not quite there. Belveth is doing everything she can. She's trying to reset, but it's not going to happen. Wet Jungler's had a hell of a run, but Icy Tama, the one to take the first.